Starfield officially launches in early access in 2 days, and today we've got a bunch of big updates for the game. If you guys have checked the Twitter trend, obviously you know that Starfield is out there. There's been a ton of leaks and rumors that I'm personally not allowed to talk about. So for this video, I'm just going to go over the official sources. We got a brand new interview with Emil over on Polygon that I'm going to go over that I think some of you might appreciate, especially if you're excited to play this game. For all of you that pre-ordered the Constellation Edition for Starfield, there was also a brand new watch app that hit the stores. We also have some brand new details from Pete Hines from a Q&A that he recently did. Along with that, I'm going to go over the news that Starfield is dominated on the Steam store. The game isn't even out yet, and it's already sitting at number 2 on the Steam charts, which I think is awesome. So I'll be talking about that and so much more. So definitely check the video chapters to optimize your viewing experience. Also, guys, real quick, I'm giving away a PlayStation 5 once I hit 130,000 subscribers. If you'd like to enter, check the pinned comment for those details. Strap in and let's get started. So starting things off, let's go ahead and do a quick news roundup for everything Starfield. As you guys know, the game is about to be released, and Starfield is currently dominating on the Steam store. If you go to the Steam charts and you look at the top sellers, you'll see Starfield all the way up at the number 2 spot. The only game currently beating it is Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which is obviously a Steam game and it's free to play. Regardless though, it is awesome to see Starfield selling so well on Steam, especially whenever you consider the game isn't out and it's also going to be available on Game Pass. Moving right along to the next bit of news, for those of you that are getting the Starfield Constellation Edition, the companion app or the Starfield Watch is currently available on the App Store as well as the Google Play Store. You can download it right now and you can check everything out. You can adjust the vibration on notification, the clock type, the date format, the screen timeout, timeout when charging, wake on tap. You can track your daily step counter, control music, and of course the watch can even tell the time. For our next bit of news, according to the Starfield News Twitter, they reported that Starfield just received a 15.48 gigabyte patch on Xbox. So for those of you that preloaded it, definitely make sure you update. Now, for those of you that have been tracking the saga with the first ever review of Starfield that released, well, the individual who got those copies allegedly tried to attempt to sell them online. He claims he legally purchased 67 copies from a logistics warehouse, and he was recently arrested for attempting to sell stolen copies of the game online. They also slapped him with a possession charge. So needless to say, that all got interesting. I think we're all going to look back at Starfield in about 5 years and remember the infamous first ever review for the game, because Todd, no offense, man, that was a great review. Moving right along, we have some new details regarding the Constellation members. It was tweeted out by the Starfield Twitter account, and I'd like to talk about all of those right now. So the first one we have is introducing Sarah Morgan, the fierce leader of Constellation, passionate about Constellation's mission, leading through action, and earning the trust and respect of her peers, and she is voiced by Emily O'Brien. The next one we have is, of course, Barrett. Barrett is one of the first members of Constellation you'll encounter on your adventures. His deep fascination with the universe has fueled his travels all over the galaxy and in pursuit of knowledge and new experiences. Barrett is voiced by Barry Wiggins. Meet Sam Coe, an excellent pilot and an even better dad. Having a strong sense of frontier justice, Sam believes that if helping someone means breaking the rules, so be it. And now we have Andreja, Constellation's newest recruit, hailing from the farthest reaches of the settled systems. Andreja is a bit of a mystery to everyone. Nobody knows where she's coming from and where she's going. Next up, we have Noelle, the youngest member of Constellation. Beyond being Sarah Morgan's protege, she's a brilliant scientist in her own right and prefers to support Constellation from the comfort of her lab. And of course, now we have Matteo Catri, Constellation's resident theologian, committed to understanding of humanity's place in the universe through studying of relics of our ancient past. For our next bit of news, we have some brand new gameplay details from none other than Pete Hines. Uncle Pete has finally broken his silence and gave us some new details about Starfield. I've got the full article in the description so you guys can check that out. Also, real quick, guys, if you plan on going into Starfield with completely fresh eyes, I recommend checking out the next chapter of the video, as this one kind of gets into some details from Pete Hines that some of you might not want to hear, as the game is coming out in 2 days. So starting things off, according to Pete Hines, the game doesn't really start until after the main quest. He says it's his favorite Bethesda main quest ever. Pete said that there's multiple passive POIs across the galaxy to find. For example, there was a set of farms where the people would give resources to other people of other planets. According to Pete, modders will be able to create entire planets, which seems to back up the claim from Todd Howard that this game is going to be a modder's paradise. According to Pete Hines, certain companions will get annoyed with you if you do bad things, even companions who are really close to you. Next up, Pete Hines said that there's lots of settlements with their own people and quests to find outside of major cities. Pete then talked about he doesn't know if you could fly from planet to planet, as the grav drive is much quicker and it only takes a few seconds, he said. Next up, weapon mods combined with skills are really diverse. He said that he even felt like Iron Man at one stage. He then said that you can get bounties put on you, but there's always ways to undo them. Pete then said that there was a museum on New Atlantis that explains the lore of the game, the colony war, and what happened to Earth, etc. He then said that the boost pack skill is really important and fun. There was another question that was asked if the adoring fan could become a robot, to which he said no. He said that there's an enormous amount of creatures. He has no clue how many there are in the game, and he also has no clue on how long it would take to do 100% of the game. He says after 150 hours, he isn't even slightly close. There's going to be a lot of mod support post-launch. He said mission boards can ask you to build outposts on planets. He then gave a pretty interesting example where the mission board gave him a quest to take 2 people across to a different planet, and he said after about 5 hours, he found 2 people still on board his ship and realized he completely forgot to take them to their destination. He said that there's a lot of Easter eggs you'd expect across the game. He then said that he doesn't believe that Starfield has a level cap. There's also going to be starter guides that are coming out according to a German interviewer. And then he said people on the PC who have played the game early have said that the performance is smooth. Moving right along, there was a recent interview with Emil, the design director of Starfield. And according to this article, Emil says that you may find God in Starfield or lose faith. So according to the interviewer, they said you embarked on a hell of a creative journey by developing an entirely new IP. So how do you begin on something like that? You have trusted people around you, you have a structure that you can lean on, but when you get the call of we're doing a sci-fi game and you have to make it all up, was it intimidating? To which Emil said no, it wasn't. It was exciting. The scale of the project hadn't hit me at the time. It was really just like the beginning of a Fallout game or working on Elder Scrolls stuff. It was fun. The very beginning was Todd Howard and Istvan and myself, Istvan on the art side and me on the design side, and Todd putting everything together, having conversations we had to have just like we would with Fallout. There was an excitement on building a new IP and where we could go and what we could do. The interviewer then followed up with the question, what were the narrative responsibilities? How was Todd involved? To which Emil said basically it was up to me to help create the lore. Todd had the game idea and I would create the lore. And every game I would create, it would pass through Todd. For example, the United Colonies as a faction. That starts with conversations with Todd. All right, cool. What do we want the big factions to be? And I was thinking this. So like the United faction is a Battlestar Galactica, Starfleet, the structured society, military type stuff for that sort of power fantasy, the sort of vibe. So we would talk, we'd agree, and then we would go off and go find a name for it. The United Colonies was one of them, and there were others on that list. A lot of work early on goes back and forth through email. When we signed off on the United Colonies, I would start the process for building up the lore from the ground up. The interviewer then followed up with the question, how does the lore of Starfield become the story of Starfield? To which Emil said, the story of Starfield as opposed to the lore, there's a main quest, and one of the things that Todd and Istvan and I talked about early on was, we're making a video game, there's got to be a main quest. But we really want to dig into some of the sort of the high level stuff with exploring space, the more theological aspect of it. We talked about religion and we ended up making up 2 religions for the game, and all of the existing religions are still in the world, in the universe, but we focus on 2 new ones because those 2 religions accentuate the vibe and theology of the game. So there's the Sanctum Universum, and there's sort of the church where they believe the humans going through space and believe that we'll be able to explore the universe is a sign that God exists and God wants us to be closer to him. And then there's the Enlightened, basically the atheist church. They're humanists. They're just like, there's nothing theological about this. And so we would have a lot of talks on our own journeys, our own theology, and you know what is out there. We were really inspired by things like 2001: A Space Odyssey or Contact or Interstellar. The next question that was asked was an open-ended RPG, much less one that is set in the vastness of space, offers dozens of rabbit holes that you can go down. How did you keep yourself from going down rabbit holes as you build out the story and the characters? To which Emil responded, the way that I was able to do it is just really experience. Having done it before, I think Bethesda as a studio in our culture, these are the kind of games we make. These are the games in our DNA, and we have processes in place to make these. The next question asked was, how does the time connect back to the theme of Starfield? How does that become your story? To which he said, the real high level of the story is like, are we alone in the universe in one place? What is the meaning of the universe? He said that we get into some pretty existential stuff in the main story. We've talked a lot about NASA punk as a theme of Starfield, that NASA really helps us to describe the visual language of Starfield and the technology level, but you could say the same thing about Interstellar, and that's not really what Interstellar is about. Starfield really is about the NASA punk vibe and connecting us to the game, to NASA and real space technology. But even when you look at NASA, why does NASA go into space? What are we trying to do out there? The next question was, so is there an aspect of the game that is about the search for sentient alien life? To which Emil said, no, not necessarily. It's a start. It's trying to figure out what is it to search for. We've showed that we've made some artifacts in the game and we've shown some really weird stuff. We're raising the questions early on. Is this extraterrestrial? Is it something else? And the next question that was asked by the interviewer was, in the game there is Constellation, this exploratory organization, which sounds like it leans right into that idea. To which Emil said, in the very beginning there's a character, Mateo. He's a young sort of theologian in Constellation. He immediately goes, this is a sign of higher intelligence, of a god or something. At the very beginning we have characters thinking that, but we don't allude that it's aliens in the very beginning or that it's God. We're just throwing the idea out there and we want the player to think for themselves. There was a couple other interesting questions that I'll link you guys in the description as well. I recommend checking out that full article. I love listening to Emil talk because trying to unpack everything that dude has done with his his entire career is pretty wild. And without that dude, we would not have all of the stories and all of the lore that we all know and love. But yeah, guys, that is going to wrap it up with this video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed my coverage of Starfield, do me a favor and leave a like. Subscribe to the channel with your notifications turned on. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.